For most of our lives, we are taught to look outward. Outward for answers, outward for meaning, outward for help. We pray for things to change, for circumstances to improve, for life to finally give us what we believe is missing. And yet, even when those prayers are answered, something still feels incomplete. There is a quiet restlessness that follows us, a subtle sense that we are searching for something we cannot name. Not because we are broken, but because we may be searching in the wrong direction. What if the connection you've been seeking was never meant to be external? What if it was never something you needed to earn, request, or deserve? What if it was already part of you? Modern science is beginning to ask questions that ancient wisdom explored long ago. Questions about consciousness, about awareness, about whether the mind is something the brain produces or something the brain receives. Physics now suggests that consciousness may not be a byproduct of matter at all, but something more fundamental, woven into the structure of the universe itself. And if consciousness is fundamental, then perhaps it is also personal. Perhaps the source people call God, Spirit, or Creator is not distant or separate. Perhaps it is not above you or beyond you. Perhaps it is within you. Not symbolically, not metaphorically, but biologically and consciously, hidden in plain sight. Your DNA is often described as a blueprint for the body. But what if it is more than that? What if DNA is also an interface, a bridge between the physical and the conscious, a receiver, not just a code? Science already knows that DNA responds to signals, to environment, to emotion, to belief. And research is beginning to show that the human heart and brain are not the only centers of intelligence in the body. There is another system, quieter, more subtle, yet deeply influential. One that responds not to force, but to intention. If this is true, then enlightenment is not something you achieve, it is something you allow. And the first step is not belief, it is curiosity, a willingness to consider that the divine connection humanity has prayed for across centuries may have always been closer than we were taught to imagine. Let's explore that together, not as doctrine, not as religion, but as an inner remembering. If you were taught that God is something you must believe in, it's understandable if doubt eventually appeared. Belief can feel fragile, especially when life is painful, especially when prayers seem unanswered. But what if belief was never the doorway? What if awareness was? Instead of asking, "Do I believe in God?" What if the better question is, am I aware of something greater moving through me? There is a reason skepticism rises when spirituality feels distant or abstract. The human mind resists what it cannot relate to, but it responds differently when the conversation becomes personal. When science entered the conversation about consciousness, something shifted. Not because science replaced spirituality, but because it gave the mind permission to listen again. Consider this. Your DNA is not static. It is dynamic, responsive, and communicative. Scientists have observed that DNA reacts to electromagnetic signals, to coherence, to intention. It responds differently when the body is under stress than when it is in balance. Differently when fear dominates than when calm is present. This means something profound. Your biology is listening. And if biology is listening, then awareness must be speaking. Ancient traditions spoke of a divine spark within the human being, not as poetry, but as truth. Modern language may call it coherence, or resonance, or information fields. Different words, same mystery. Your heart generates an electromagnetic field far stronger than the brain. It sends signals upward, not just receiving commands, but offering guidance. And deep within the brain, behind the eyes, rests a structure long surrounded by myth and reverence, the pineal gland. Once dismissed, now increasingly studied. Sensitive to light, linked to circadian rhythms, and possibly to states of awareness beyond ordinary perception. This is not about mysticism replacing science. It is about science slowly rediscovering what intuition always knew. That the human being is not just a body with thoughts, but a conscious system, tuned, responsive, and interconnected. If the Creator is part of you, then prayer changes meaning. It is no longer a request made outward, it becomes a conversation inward, not asking for things, but asking for clarity, for alignment, for remembrance. And this is where everything begins to change. Intention is spoken about often. Belief is spoken about even more. But few people explain how they actually work together. Intention without belief is wishful thinking. Belief without action is dormant potential. They require a third element: engagement. When intention is clear, belief becomes possible. When belief stabilizes, action becomes natural. This is not forcing reality, it is aligning with it. The problem most people face is not lack of desire, it is contradiction. They want change, but they rehearse doubt. They ask for clarity, but revisit fear. The nervous system learns faster than the conscious mind. It responds to repetition, emotion, and expectation. This is why belief is not created through logic alone. It is created through experience. Small confirmations, moments of coherence, a felt sense that something is responding. When you pause the noise, when you quiet the survival patterns, something subtle becomes noticeable. Awareness begins to expand. This is where meditation, or stillness, plays its role. Not as a ritual, not as discipline, but as permission. You are not trying to reach something, you are allowing something to surface. And when that happens, intention shifts from effort to resonance. Instead of saying, "I want to become," you begin to feel, "I am remembering." This is the turning point. Belief no longer asks for proof. It grows from familiarity. The more often you return to this internal alignment, the more the body recognizes it as safe. And what feels safe becomes real. This is why transformation rarely happens in dramatic leaps. It happens through gentle consistency, through daily moments of coherence, through repeated alignment between thought, emotion, and awareness. And eventually, something unexpected occurs. Life begins to respond differently, not because the world changed, but because you did. And this opens the doorway to the most misunderstood practice of all. Not asking for outcomes, but asking for evolution. Now let's slow this down. Not to escape the world, but to enter it more fully. You don't need to change your breathing. Just notice it. Notice that you are aware of being aware. That awareness did not come from effort. It was already present. This is where the conversation begins. Not spoken outwardly, but inwardly. You might think of this as prayer, or meditation, or simply listening. There is no wrong word for it. So instead of asking for things, try asking for clarity. Not what to receive, but how to grow. Silently or aloud, you might say, "Help me see myself more clearly. Help me release what no longer serves me. Help me remember who I truly am." Notice how different this feels. There is no bargaining here, no pleading, only openness. And something subtle responds, not as a voice, but as a feeling, a settling, a warmth, a quiet certainty. This is not imagination, it is recognition. You are not speaking to something outside yourself, you are activating something within. Ancient traditions hinted at this. Modern science is beginning to circle it. The intelligence that sustains life does not bypass you, it includes you. This is why growth is not downloaded all at once. It unfolds, layer by layer, insight by insight. And each time you return to this inner dialogue, the signal becomes clearer. Not louder, clearer. You may notice changes you didn't plan. Reactions soften, old patterns loosen, choices feel less forced. This is alignment in motion. And here is the most important realization. You do not need to convince yourself of anything. You only need to be willing. Willing to listen, willing to pause, willing to grow. Because evolution is not something you earn, it is something you allow. And when you do, life begins to meet you halfway. So what does all of this mean for your life? It means you are not broken. You never were. It means growth is not about becoming someone else, but remembering what has always been present. The intelligence you've been seeking has been seeking you too. Not as a judge, not as a distant authority, but as a partner in your becoming. This is why intention matters, why belief matters, why action matters. Not because they force reality to comply, but because they align you with it. When intention is clear, belief opens the door, and action becomes a signal. a signal that says, I am ready to participate. And the universe responds, not dramatically, not instantly, but intelligently, through synchronicity, through insight, through the quiet rearranging of circumstances. This is not magic, it is cooperation, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Because life stops feeling random, challenges still come, but they arrive differently, as teachers, as mirrors, as invitations to expand. And slowly, something shifts. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And begin asking, what is this helping me become? That question alone changes everything. This is the revelation, not that you must believe in something greater, but that something greater is already believing in you, encoded, present, patient, waiting not for worship, but for awareness. So take this with you, not as a doctrine, not as a system, but as a remembering. You are not here to beg reality for permission. You are here to participate in its unfolding. And the moment you realize that, the journey truly begins.